All right, welcome to VOP this morning. My name is Moses Humphrey, and of course, working with me is Esther Machuku. Now, we are now sure to report that the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have shelved the planned industrial action pending the determination of further negotiations with the federal government. It's good news for the government, certainly, and hopefully one that turns out to be the best for everyone. Now, do well to click on the like button and subscribe to our pages. On YouTube, we are Voice of the People TV, and on other social media platforms, voptvlive. First off, we'll go into the pages and find out what the front pages of some dailies are saying. And to help me make sense of this, I have with me in the studio VOP analyst Cyril Abakum. Good morning to you, Cyril.
Good morning, Moses.
All right, so first off, how do you feel about the shelving of the labor strike, the NLC strike?
In the manner of speaking, it's good news for the federal government. I hope that
Is it good news for the people?
for the federal government,
Is it good news for the people?
up to this point, I can't say if it's the best for the people, because price of things are still very high, transport costs are still very high, food prices are still very high. And hopefully, if the negotiations go well and it's something that we can live by, then it's fine for everyone.
All right, then. Let's move away from that, as that is our focal point for today. Now let's go into the Punch newspaper. First off, from the Punch newspaper, subsidy. NLC kicks as court stops strike. Police warn hoodlums. Labour falls interim order. Bank, aviation workers join planned strike. IG orders police commissioners to prevent breakdown of law and order. And on top of the nameplate, you have a presidential election. Atiku witnesses alleged poll fraud. Foreign trade declines by 2.6 trillion naira over FX shortage. NBS. Nigeria Air reps grill FG officials today. Reps grill FG officials today. I had to take that one the second time on Nigerian Air. And right here, there's a pictorial of bags of smuggled goods, and it has the headline, 1 billion naira petrol, other smuggled goods seized in May. Customs. Tinubu will turn economy around, Jimo Ibrahim. Unilag undergraduate shot dead over stolen phone. FG records 930 billion naira, 2-month fiscal deficits, CBN. All right, Cyril. Go ahead.
Oh, well, the way we've come to see events play out in the past 24 or so hours has been one that has got everyone thinking. Yesterday, I think by yesterday afternoon, there was a court injunction that said, from the National Industrial Court, that said Labour could not proceed with its strike. It was an ex parte motion, which means Labour's lawyers were not represented. It was government had told the court that this was supposed to be a very crucial national issue and that they needed to get an injunction preventing Labour from going on strike. The factors decided were that, one, in light of the fact that ASU had been on strike for almost a year, students were at home, the health sector will be crippled. I think that same yesterday was when Joesu, that is workers in the joint health sector union,
decided to resolve its own strike.
After meeting the president. This president has come into office with a lot of, with so much. One, there's a cold, one, there's a fever, one, there's a headache. Everybody seems to be drawing because of one announcement. But the good thing is, I think that unlike President Buhari's own scenario, what we find now is that with everything that lands on the table, there's a next chapter. There's immediately a next chapter, which I think for me
is good enough.
Is the hallmark of leadership. Look, I'm not so much for whether it's what we want or what we don't want, but the fact that somebody is showing that presence, showing presence of mind, and showing involvement in what is going on, I think is thumbs up for the president. But not to say that it's that thumbs up is what we as people are looking for. I think it's when Labour, the NLC, the TUs, and everybody would have sat together to have finalized their conversation that we would now know. I think meeting that took place yesterday, there was permanent secretary in the Ministry of Labour, there was the two labor unions and the presidents and secretaries, and then Speaker of the House of Reps, Bajabe Milafemi. They were the 5 persons who signed the one-page document saying that we are going to have a discussion around the World Bank loan, minimum wage, and I think a host of other factors. So Labour, of course, was not going to take the court injunction that came out yesterday, lying low. There's good reason why Labour didn't say that we are going to go on strike on Monday. It was to keep the door, as far as I saw it, it was to keep the door open
for negotiations.
And then suddenly it's like having a roundtable discussion over wine and saying, gentlemen, what do we do? Then suddenly one of the parties has gone behind to get a stop work order. And they said, gentlemen, just a minute. As they step out, people just come in and say, you can't do as we say, do as we say. That's how I felt when the court injunction came out. I hope the government has not overreached itself, because now it appears that they've twisted or muzzled Labour into negotiations. But a time will come when they will need Labour to also pipe low for them. I hope that they won't meet Labour at a very steep point. But it's okay that the economy will continue to flow. People, no matter what the price and cost is, people are still able to move around, even if it's not everybody, but at least those who can move around are still moving around. But once the discussions are done and dusted, let's see, TUC is pushing for 200,000 naira as minimum wage. I know, of course, government is not going to pay that. It may.
That's
because
far-fetched.
The reality, at the end of the day, is that our refineries must come back to work. And secondly, social infrastructure must be viable. Once you have these two in place, it's not the place in Nigeria and Japan, they don't pay high-falutin salaries. They don't. You work and you earn your pay. But in Nigeria, any economy where people require all the money to get everything done, just so that government has failed. Somebody was saying yesterday, you pipe your water, you drill your borehole, you pay your security, you tie your roads. Some people even tie those to their houses. You tie your roads, you do all sorts of things, and government comes tomorrow to say that they want to take tax from you. So if I need all the money I want to meet all my needs, then it means I don't need government anymore. That's the simple, logical explanation of what is going on. I hope that the government will get its act together early in the day and make sure that beyond raising wages and removing subsidy, our refineries get to work. Not Dangote, our refineries get to work. Dangote is a businessman. Our refineries get to work, and that social amenities and infrastructure are put in place as they ought to be. Sorry, Moses. I was even thinking that by now we should be having a discussion around resurrecting the shopping buses, because the shopping buses were bought actually.
Okay.
What's their condition? Jonathan bought. What's their condition? The one that Christopher Kolade was leading. Is it that they've been sold? They are bad. They are moribund now. What? I mean, just about.
I think the Nigerian factor has affected them, because one cannot state for sure where they are. If they were parked, one cannot state for sure the conditions of the buses.
If sincerely those buses were bought as I know they were. Now the question, when Buhari came, what did he do with them? And in a space of 8 or 9 years, where are those buses?
And if they were bought, they would have been spoiled by now if they were not used.
Well, because I am thinking in the Nigerian sense of things, why I don't know if the federal government has substantially spoken about palliatives, like what were given in the interim. I have not heard that in the conversation.
Aside from the increment in pay, that's about the only thing they've put forward.
Even that one appears to be an agreement in principle, not stricto sensu. Because I read the memo this morning, the memo signed by federal government, Speaker of House of Reps. What they even said was to review any increase. The language didn't sound pro people. It didn't sound like we are definitely going to increase it, and maybe that's the legalese of the conversation. But I didn't see that. I didn't hear government say, but the document didn't read like there was a fair motive, and the labor leaders went ahead to sign. I didn't see that. What they should have said that there was going to be an increase. In fact, a minimal increase that will not be less than
a certain amount,
and that subject to negotiations. I didn't hear that. What I just heard them say, any increase. I am a bit concerned. I'm not a lawyer, But is it for the legalese of it? Does that not sound like there is not even any, that sounds to me like we haven't even agreed that we are going to hook this in on an increase in salaries. That's why it sounds to me, government say review any increase. That is, if at all there will even be an increase. That's how I read it. I mean, for the sheer semantics of it anyway. So
what do you think about Kwara State, where the people have been told to work lesser days?
I laughed when I saw it.
I mean, moved from 3 days to
It won't be the first
5 days to 3 days.
It won't be the first time a governor will be tinkering with this idea. One is an admission of the fact that the increase in price of petrol is, frankly speaking, is biting. It's not so we can't pretend about it. Governor Abdul
Wahid.
Governor Abdul Razak.
Okay.
Abdul Wahid, right? Abdul Wahid, Abdul Razak is, no, sorry, Abdul Rahman Abdul Razak is an APC governor, dying the wool. So this, I mean, you can't say he's not pretending. It's not as if he's a PDP governor that wants to shame the federal government. No, I mean, I think he's facing reality. That's one. Number two is the fact that when you do this, Governor Erufai did it in Kaduna. Governor, I think Okorocha did it in Imo. What was the result of it? I think that what would have, because 5 days a week, and I cut down to about 2 or 3 days.
3 days.
3 days. So how do you get productivity? Is the government now going to also scale back on its goals and ambitions, if it has any, about what it wants to achieve and where it wants to go? So I think what ought to happen is, hopefully the 2 or 3 days off work stuff is a stopgap measure, it's temporary. We need to be a thinking nation.
All right.
We need to be a thinking nation. What else, what other than this can we do?
All right,
because tomorrow one governor will say it's buying bicycles for civil servants to be able to come to work. But what can we really do?
That in itself has been said already in Abuja. I mean, they've said they'll create
under Ojo Madwek as Minister of Transport.
It's been repeated now. Nigerians should ride on bikes, and they'll create ways for it on the road. Anyway, let's get on to another daily now. The Nation newspaper has this banner headline: Labour suspends strike plan, talks between government, TUC, NLC on palliatives, implementation for June 19. Talks between government, TUC, NLC on palliatives implementation for June 19. And right underneath the nameplate, we have Obi didn't win in Nasarawa. Atiku's witness tells court. LP tenders results from 8 more states. And then, beside that one, Uzodinma, APC governors supporting Abbas Kalu. And then on top of the nameplate, we have a fracas as Ogun Tribunal begins seating. Don't hoard intelligence. Tinubu directs security agencies. Jimo Ibrahim rates president's development plan high. Health workers call off strike conditionally. All right. Well, and then we have underneath this pictorial, we have a quote here: the labor centers and the federal government to review, excuse me, and establish the framework for completion of the rehabilitation of the nation's refineries. All right. And then we have court dismisses Keyamo's suit seeking Atiku's arrest for alleged corruption. 10 Senate. Okay. All right. That's a sponsored article. All right. So these are the headlines from The Nation. Is there any that you would like to respond to here?
Sure, of course. There was the story about the president. Yes, yesterday he was at the National Counterterrorism Center. I think he was impressed with what he saw there, having taken a tour of the facility, and the pictures were everywhere. He did say that, like it was quoted,
intelligence.
Because I think that the interagency rivalry among the various agencies of government involved in security and corruption, it runs deeper than what we might have thought it was. Only last week, we saw what happened at Ikoyi between the EFCC and the DSS. And I said that if that could even boil into the open, it means that beneath it had been simmering for a long time. That's one. In 2016 or 17, there was the incident involving the Ikoyi, the cash haul that was, I think, 13 or 14 billion naira. The Ikoyi cash haul. The NIA, which we came to understand was NIA money, National Intelligence Agency, which is supposed to be our international eyes and ears, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. They're supposed to have listening posts around the world. But the EFCC, I think, had serious issues with them. There was this, I think this was also at the point involved. In Abuja, there was a time that they almost came close to a shootout. When Mr. Ibrahim Magu was nominated to be EFCC chairman, you remember very well that the DSS came up and said, this man is corrupt. They tendered a whole, what is that thing called again? Not a dissertation, an entire expose, but that's not what I'm looking for. It was this whole trove of information. They said he was corrupt, he had houses bought for him with corruption money and so on. On the score of Magu's own case, I think that the president should have done his due diligence. If there was even ever a little tinge of what could make the public look at the person in a tinge light, I think the president shouldn't have put his name forward. But on the other hand, and the fact that he was even left there, that he was even left there to be in acting capacity for almost a year or two, and for as long as possible, until another corruption issue was brought against him before he was removed from office. My thinking is the president needs to get a thorough grip on this matter. And if the current NSA perhaps is not able to hone, because the president should never be the one doing the harnessing together. He shouldn't be the one. That's why he has an NSA, who by law stays in office even beyond the term of the person who appointed him, because you can't have a vacuum in a national security apparatus. I would have thought that, so I think if the current NSA, if the president doesn't think that the current NSA can deliver the goods as he would want him to deliver, I think with time he might have to ask him to step aside and get somebody who can earn the trust and confidence and respect of all the secret. That's a very delicate office. That's the man who used to be an insider in the defense establishment in Nigeria was speaking on the TV station, was it last year or 2 years ago, and he said that they were amazed when under Yaradua's government, the DSS was forced to reveal what they knew in a closed-door meeting, that even they were surprised to find out how much the DSS knew. You remember there was a minister, President Yaradua appointed, minister for, I think, health, or one of the ministries in 2007, 2008. The woman said she didn't need the DSS person, her DSS attaché. What was he doing for her? Just enter the car, follow her around. That she doesn't have anything to hide, though. He should be going. It was reported in, I think, Punch of Anger that she said she didn't need that. She had not seen what the person was. She had police. That she didn't know what the person was doing for her. Just carry her hand full. She didn't want it. But again, what ought to be said is that these people are. You only should see what they do, but you should never see them. You should hear what they do, but you should never see them. In Israel, you have the Mossad and there's the Shin Bet, and then I think there used to be the Haganah. It is when they have struck,
that you know about it.
You know that they've struck, but you will never get to know them for who they are. I think DSS is the secret police. It was Vanguard that established the DSS. What used to be called the NSO. I mean, we can't be on TV and be describing how they do their work, but the fact is they ought to be
heard.
They shouldn't be seen at all.
Okay.
And so if they have intelligence, and I respect them because they know a whole lot. I respect them. I respect the fact that. So what must be done now is this: the NSA must get his act together. It's not the president. The president has made the call. The NSA must not make sure that the heads of these agencies, defense, army, navy, police, DSS, and NSA, all of them
come together.
Yeah. Because I even think that if they feed his office with what they have, there should be no rivalry really. The parallel rivalry should not be there. If they vertically feed him, he should be able to now tell who is involved in whatever.
Who should do what.
Yes.
All right, then let's quickly go on to another paper because of time. Let's look at the blueprints. I was smiling earlier. There was a headline I saw.
Okay.
And I would like your response to it.
Okay.
Now, from the Blueprint newspaper, we have these headlines. The banner headline is Fuel Subsidy Crisis. TUC goes for the jugular, demands 200,000 naira minimum wage, seeks improved living standard, 10 naira a litre intervention fund, court restrains labor from Wednesday strike, NLC resumes talks with FG, Kwara OK's 3-day a week for workers. And then on top of the nameplate, we have Johisu suspends strike for 3 weeks after meeting Tinubu. Court discharges, acquits ex-HOS on Rosanya over 190 million naira fraud, 190 million fraud. And then when you go further down, I'm coming to that one, the interesting one, interesting to me. UBA leads as banks rake in 307.472 billion naira from e-businesses. Thugs invade Ogun Election Tribunal, flog opposition. Interesting. OPEC lowers Nigeria's 2024 production quota to 1.38 MBPD. And then, 10th NAS leadership, Yari takes case to Buhari in Daura. Ex-Zamfara governor obtains order restraining EFCC, ICPC's detention. Akpabio, Wike, Umahi in closed-door meeting with Tinubu. Now, that's what do you make of this headline, Biko? I didn't know how that came out. Please.
He took his case to the president in Daura.
Ex-president in Daura.
to our father and grandfather. To say, Baba, this is our...
The people are persecuting me.
Sorry about that. You know, I think if we've been following what has been going on in terms of lobbying for the seat of Senate President and Deputy Senate President, we know that it has been more or less a Yare Kalu ticket and an Akpabio Barau ticket. Now, in the Yare Kalu ticket, Kalu had taken this matter to the president, if you remember very well.
Yes, I do.
This president could not even... He didn't wait until the end of the inauguration on Monday last week. He could barely wait. He needed to go to meet his cattle in Daura to go back to his house and sit down. And
was this what he meant when he said, if Nigeria disturbs me, I will run to the jail?
In fact, the man is already on the run. Because if people like Yari keep on going to Daura, he will truly pack his bags. And one money here that the president is now in...
Okay.
That the president is now in... what's the name of the capital of Niger now? Is it Nouakchott also? That is now in Nouakchott. Or what about the capital? That he has gone to Niger Republic. They should leave him alone. Look, I don't know what influence they believe that the president is going to wield in a manner and a way that will influence the outcome of the elections on the floor. I've said it time and again that if you think you have what it takes, the ideas, the values, the philosophy, the policy, agenda, the way forward, go on the floor of the National Assembly.
Convince your fellow lawmakers.
Be nominated. Be at least, if one person nominates you, we know that you're not standing. Be nominated. And then let it be put to a vote.
Okay. Well, we have to run now because we have to go on to the other segments of the show. So I must say a very big thank you to you, Cyril. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Well, now for sure, we know for sure that there'll be no strike tomorrow, but the issues remain. The issues are still there. They're still on the table. And that's a conversation that we will go into. We'll be looking at how the federal government got the labor unions to shelve their planned strike. Well, stay with us. We'll be back in a bit.